The moment Zara's lips touched my husband's mouth across the anniversary dinner table, I knew my old life was over. But what no one expected, least of all them, was that I had been preparing for this moment for 3 months. While everyone in the restaurant gasped and my mother-in-law dropped her wine glass, shattering it across the marble floor, I simply placed my hand on my 8-month pregnant belly and smiled. The twins kicked inside me as if they could sense that their mother was about to change everything. Let me back up. My name is Amara Johnson, and 6 hours ago I thought I was celebrating 5 years of marriage to Chitty Johnson at the finest restaurant in downtown Atlanta. I wore a royal blue maternity dress that complemented my brown skin, and I had spent 2 hours getting my hair perfect. The private dining room was filled with roses, candles flickered on every surface, and our closest family and friends surrounded us. Chitty's parents sat to my left, beaming with pride. My best friend Tanisha sat across from me in a stunning red pantsuit, raising her glass for a toast. To Amara and Chitty, Tanisha began, her voice warm. 5 years of marriage and now 2 beautiful babies on the way. You two are proof that love and partnership can build empires. Everyone applauded. Chitty squeezed my hand and kissed my cheek. In that moment, if you had asked anyone in that room, they would have called us the perfect couple. He was the handsome real estate developer with the $1 million smile. I was the financial genius behind Sterling Heights Real Estate, the company we built together from nothing. Together, we were Atlanta's power couple, featured in magazines and blogs, interviewed about our success story. Then Zara walked in. She wasn't invited. She wasn't supposed to be there. But she strode into that private dining room wearing a tight green dress that left little to the imagination, her heels clicking against the floor like a countdown to disaster. Her eyes were fixed on Chitty with an intensity that made my stomach turn. Sorry I'm late, she said, her voice bright and unapologetic. Traffic was terrible. Chitty's face went pale. His hand released mine and dropped to his lap. That was my first confirmation, though I had known for months. The way his body tensed, the way he couldn't meet my eyes, the way he stammered, "Zara, what are you doing here?" "What do you mean?" She laughed, tossing her hair. "You invited me, remember? You said this was a celebration for the whole Sterling Heights family." "What?" I had made the guest list. Chitty had approved it. Zara's name was not on it. But what happened next went beyond anything I had imagined in my worst nightmares. Zara walked right up to Chitty, placed her hands on his face and kissed him. Not a friendly peck. Not an accident. A full, passionate kiss that lasted 5 long seconds while everyone in the room sat frozen in shock. When she finally pulled away, she looked directly at me. Her eyes were triumphant, challenging, cruel. She wanted me to break. She wanted me to scream, to cry, to throw something, to cause a scene that would embarrass me and make her the victim. She wanted to prove that she could take my husband in front of me and there was nothing I could do about it. Instead, I took a slow sip of my water. I placed the glass down carefully. I stood up, smoothing my blue dress over my pregnant belly, and said in a calm, clear voice, "Excuse me for a moment. I need to use the restroom." Tanisha jumped up immediately. "I'll come with you." "No," I said gently, touching her shoulder. "I'm fine. I just need a minute." The walk to the bathroom felt like a mile. I could hear the eruption behind me. Chitty's mother shrieking at Zara. His father demanding explanations. Tanisha's voice cutting through the chaos, telling everyone to calm down. And Chitty, stammering, trying to explain something that had no explanation. I locked myself in the largest bathroom stall and pulled out my phone. My hands were steady. My breathing was controlled. I had practiced this moment 100 times in my mind. First call, "Mr. Patterson? This is Amara Johnson. Yes, I know it's late. I'm ready to proceed with everything we discussed. File the divorce papers tomorrow morning. And yes, release the evidence to the IRS immediately." Second call, "Jerome? It's Amara. Remember the investment meeting scheduled for tomorrow? I need you to pull out. Yes, the entire $50 million. I'll explain everything later, but trust me on this. And call the other investors. Tell them what I told you about the audit." Third call, "This is Amara Johnson calling for the fraud hotline at First National Bank. I need to report suspicious activity on business account number 4782 to 9963. Yes, I have documentation. I'm the co-owner of the account. I'm reporting my business partner and my husband for embezzlement." Each call took less than 3 minutes. By the time I finished, my revenge was in motion. 3 months of planning, 3 months of gathering evidence, 3 months of preparing for this exact moment, and now all the pieces were falling into place. I washed my hands slowly, reapplied my lipstick, and stared at my reflection. The woman looking back at me was stronger than she had been an hour ago. My twins kicked again, reminding me that I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. When I walked back into the dining room, the scene had escalated. Zara was crying, mascara running down her face. Chitty stood in the corner, his head in his hands. His mother was still yelling. His father looked like he might have a heart attack. I walked straight to my seat, picked up my purse and turned to Tanisha. "Can you drive me home?" "Of course," she said immediately, grabbing her own bag. Chitty finally looked up. "Amara, please. Let me explain." I looked at him for a long moment. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of building a business together. 5 years of trust that he had destroyed for someone like Zara. I could have said so many things. I could have screamed every curse word I knew. I could have told him exactly what I thought of him and his mistress. Instead I said, "There's nothing to explain. I saw everything I needed to see. Please," he begged, taking a step toward me. "Don't leave like this. Watch me." Tanisha linked her arm through mine and we walked out together. Behind us, I heard Zara's voice, shrill and panicked. "Chitty, what is she going to do? Why isn't she upset? Why did she smile?" I smiled again as we stepped into the cool Atlanta night. Let them wonder. Let them panic. By morning they would understand exactly what that smile meant. The game was over. And I had already won. 5 years earlier, I met Chitty at a real estate investment conference in Miami. I was 24, fresh out of graduate school with a master's degree in finance, and hungry to prove myself in a male-dominated industry. He was 27, charming, ambitious, and presenting a bold vision for urban development that caught my attention. "Most developers see buildings," he said during his presentation, his voice confident and clear. "I see communities. I see potential. I see the future." After his talk, I approached him with a folder full of financial projections I had been working on. "Your vision is good," I told him, "but your numbers are terrible. You're underestimating costs by at least 30% and overestimating returns by 20%. Most men would have been offended." Chitty laughed, a deep, genuine sound that made me like him immediately. "You're absolutely right. I'm a terrible accountant. Are you looking for a job?" That conversation turned into coffee, which turned into a business partnership, which turned into love. 6 months later, we launched Sterling Heights Real Estate with my savings and his connections. I handled all the financial analysis, risk assessment, and investor relations. He focused on acquisitions, development, and client relationships. We were perfect complements to each other, or so I thought. Our first project was a small apartment renovation in a struggling neighborhood. I ran the numbers 20 times, making sure we could afford every detail. Chitty charmed the contractors and city officials. When we sold those units at a 40% profit, we knew we had something special. We got married a year later in a simple ceremony at my family's church. I wore a maroon dress that my grandmother had altered for me. Chitty wore a navy suit. We wrote our own vows, promising to be partners in business and life, to trust each other completely, to build something meaningful together. For 3 years we kept those promises. Sterling Heights grew from 1 property to 15. We employed 30 people. We were featured in Forbes, Black Enterprise, and Atlanta magazine. My parents were proud. His parents treated me like the daughter they never had. Every success we achieved together. Then Zara entered our lives. It started innocently enough. We needed someone to handle property management, someone who understood luxury markets and high-end clients. Zara came with impressive credentials from a real estate firm in New York. She had a degree from Columbia, experience with million-dollar properties, and references that checked out perfectly. During her interview, she sat across from Chitty and me in our conference room, wearing a professional green blazer and matching skirt. She spoke confidently about her vision for expanding our property management division. She complimented our business model and asked intelligent questions about our growth strategy. "You've built something remarkable," she said, looking between Chitty and me. "I'd be honored to be part of this team." I liked her. That's the part that still makes me angry with myself. I genuinely liked her, trusted her, welcomed her into our company like a friend. She started as our director of property management. Within 6 months, Chitty promoted her to vice president of operations. I should have questioned it. I should have asked why she was advancing so quickly. But business was booming, profits were up, and I was busy analyzing new deals and meeting with investors. Besides, I was trying to get pregnant. Chitty and I had been trying for over a year with no success. I had appointments with fertility specialists, took medications that made me emotional and exhausted, tracked everything obsessively. It consumed my attention and energy. Zara was there through all of it, or so I thought. She brought me tea when I felt sick from the medications. She took on extra responsibilities when I needed to leave early for doctor's appointments. She listened sympathetically when I vented about the stress and disappointment. "You're so strong," she would tell me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "When you finally have your baby, it's going to be worth all of this." What I didn't know was that while she pretended to comfort me, she was texting my husband. While she brought me tea, she was making plans to meet him after work. While she listened to my struggles, she was becoming the reason for new ones. The affair started about a year into her employment at Sterling Heights, though I didn't discover it until much later. Looking back, I can see the signs I missed. Chitty's late nights at the office became more frequent. His phone was always face down. He started going to the gym regularly, something he had never done before. He bought new clothes, expensive cologne, and paid more attention to his appearance. I attributed it to business stress and midlife vanity. I was too focused on my own struggles to see what was happening right in front of me. When I finally got pregnant, naturally and unexpectedly, I thought it would fix everything. The doctor called on a Tuesday morning to tell me the news, and I cried with joy. Even better, it was twins. I rushed to Chitty's office to tell him, bursting through the door with the ultrasound pictures in my hand. He was on the phone. He looked startled, almost guilty, and quickly ended the call. But when I showed him the pictures, when I told him we were having twins, his face transformed. He hugged me, lifted me off my feet despite my protests, and called his parents immediately to share the news. For a brief moment I thought we were back. I thought the distance I had been feeling was all in my head. I thought we were going to be okay. But the affair didn't end with my pregnancy. It intensified. Chitty became attentive at home but distant in ways that mattered. He came to doctor's appointments but checked his phone constantly. He helped me prepare the nursery but seemed distracted, his mind elsewhere. And Zara, who should have kept professional distance from a pregnant woman's husband, became even more embedded in our lives. She volunteered to handle more responsibilities so I could rest. She joined us for family dinners, sitting at our table, laughing at Chitty's jokes, acting like the friend I thought she was. She threw me a baby shower at the office, complete with gifts and games and a cake decorated with tiny blue and pink footprints. I have photos from that day. In every single one, Zara is smiling at Chitty, not at me. In every single one, they're standing just a little too close. In every single one, I'm oblivious, happy, trusting. The truth began to unravel 3 months before our anniversary dinner. I was 7 months pregnant, uncomfortable and exhausted, when I asked to use Chitty's laptop because mine was updating. He hesitated just a second too long before agreeing. That hesitation told me everything. I opened his email, something I had never done in 5 years of marriage. What I found made my blood run cold. Hundreds of messages between him and Zara, going back 18 months. Messages that started professional and gradually became personal, then intimate, then explicit. "I can't stop thinking about last night," one read. "When can we be together again?" another asked. "She has no idea," one said. "She's too focused on getting pregnant to notice anything." That last one broke something inside me. Not my heart, not yet. My trust, my belief in the man I had married, my faith that our partnership meant something real. I could have confronted him that night. I could have screamed, cried, demanded answers. But I kept reading. And what I discovered was so much worse than an affair. Chitty and Zara weren't just sleeping together. They were stealing from our company. They were hiding properties under Zara's name, using Sterling Heights resources to fund personal investments, planning to force me out of the business after the babies were born. Once she's overwhelmed with 2 infants, one email read, "We can convince her to step back. She'll sign over her shares if we frame it right." That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment I stopped being the trusting wife and became the strategic queen. I closed the laptop, went to bed next to my husband, and began planning my revenge. The morning after I discovered the emails, I woke up next to Chitty and watched him sleep. His face was peaceful, untroubled, the face of a man who thought he was getting away with everything. I placed my hand on my pregnant belly, felt the twins moving inside me, and made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him. I wasn't going to cry or beg or give him the chance to lie his way out of this. I was going to systematically destroy everything he and Zara had built on my back. I got out of bed carefully, made breakfast like I did every morning, and kissed him goodbye when he left for work. Then I called Tanisha. Tanisha Roberts had been my best friend since college. She was a corporate attorney with a reputation for being ruthless in the courtroom and fiercely loyal to her friends. When I told her what I had found, she was silent for a long moment. "How pregnant are you right now?" she finally asked. 7 months. "Good. That gives us time. Don't confront him. Don't let them know you know anything. Can you act normal for a few months?" I can do whatever it takes. Then let's build a case that will bury them both. Over the next 3 months, while my belly grew and my babies kicked and everyone around me planned for their arrival, I became a different person. I smiled at Chitty over dinner while secretly photographing documents. I thanked Zara for her help at work while copying her emails to a secure drive. I attended baby showers and picked out nursery furniture while meeting with private investigators and forensic accountants in secret. Tanisha connected me with Jerome Patterson, a divorce attorney who specialized in high-net-worth cases involving business assets. He was a short man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. We met at his office downtown in a conference room on the 40th floor with a view of the Atlanta skyline. "Tell me everything," he said, pulling out a legal pad. I did. I told him about Sterling Heights, about how I had been the financial architect of every successful deal. I told him about Chitty and Zara's affair, about the embezzlement, about their plans to force me out. I showed him the emails, the financial records, the property transfers that made no business sense. Jerome read through everything methodically, making notes in neat handwriting. After an hour, he looked up at me. "This is worse than you think," he said. "They're not just stealing from your company. They're committing fraud. Tax fraud, bank fraud, possibly wire fraud. If we pursue this correctly, they could face criminal charges." "Good," I said. My voice was cold even to my own ears. "I want them to lose everything. Not just the marriage. I want the business, the properties, the reputation, everything. They tried to steal my life's work while I was pregnant with my husband's children. I want justice." Jerome smiled grimly. "Then let's get you justice." The next call was to a private investigator named Ruth Chen. She was a former police detective who now ran her own agency specializing in corporate investigations. Tanisha had used her before and vouched for her discretion and effectiveness. Ruth was a thin woman in her 50s with short gray hair and an intensity that made me trust her immediately. She met me at a coffee shop near my house, sitting in the back corner where no one could overhear us. "I need you to follow my husband and his mistress," I told her, sliding an envelope across the table. Inside were photos of Chitty and Zara, their work schedules, their known locations. "I need proof of the affair, documentation of everywhere they go together, everyone they meet with. I need enough evidence that they can't deny anything." Ruth opened the envelope and studied the photos. "How long has this been going on?" "At least 18 months, maybe longer." "And you want what exactly? Photos? Video? Financial transactions?" "Everything. I want a complete picture of their relationship and their business dealings. Leave no stone unturned." She named her price. I paid it without hesitation. Some things are worth every penny. The third person I brought into my inner circle was Harold Bennett, a forensic accountant who specialized in uncovering financial fraud. He was recommended by Jerome and came with credentials that included testimony in federal court cases. We met at his office in Buckhead, a modest space filled with filing cabinets and computer screens. "I've reviewed the preliminary information you sent," Harold said, gesturing to a thick folder on his desk. "You're right to be concerned. The property transfers to Zara's name are suspicious. The timing, the amounts, the lack of clear business justification. It looks like they're systematically moving assets out of Sterling Heights and into her personal portfolio. Can you prove it? Give me access to your business accounts and records and I can prove anything." I gave him everything. Bank statements, property records, tax returns, partnership agreements. Everything I had built with Chitty over 5 years was now evidence in my case against him. For the next 3 months, my team worked while I pretended everything was normal. Ruth followed Chitty and Zara, photographing them at hotels, restaurants, and properties that weren't on Sterling Heights books. She documented meetings with contractors who were doing work paid for by our company but benefiting Zara's properties. She even recorded a conversation where they discussed their timeline for forcing me out. "She'll be so overwhelmed with the twins," Zara's voice said on the recording. "New mothers are emotional and exhausted. She'll practically beg us to buy her out." "And if she doesn't?" Chitty asked. "Then we'll make her life so difficult she'll have no choice. We'll schedule meetings when she can't attend, make decisions without her, gradually push her to the margins until she realizes she's not needed anymore." Listening to that recording, sitting in Ruth's office at 8 months pregnant, I felt something harden inside me. These were people I had trusted. People I had built a life with. And they were planning to discard me like I was nothing. Harold worked equally hard on the financial evidence. He discovered that over 18 months, nearly $2 million had been diverted from Sterling Heights into properties and accounts controlled by Zara. Chitty had authorized the transfers using his position as CEO, hiding them in complex transactions that looked legitimate on the surface but fell apart under scrutiny. This is embezzlement, Harold told me, laying out spreadsheets that detailed every fraudulent transaction. Clear-cut, prosecutable embezzlement. And the tax implications are serious. They haven't reported any of this income. That's federal tax fraud. What are my options? Civilly, you can sue them for damages, force them to return the money, potentially dissolve the partnership. Criminally, you can report them to law enforcement. The IRS would definitely be interested. So would the FBI, given the amounts involved. I want both, I said. I want them to face every possible consequence. Jerome coordinated everything. He drafted divorce papers that detailed Chitty's infidelity and financial misconduct. He prepared civil suits against both Chitty and Zara for fraud and embezzlement. He contacted the IRS and provided them with Harold's findings. He reached out to Sterling Heights major investors and warned them that an audit was coming. Once we file these papers, Jerome warned me during our final meeting before the anniversary dinner, there's no going back. This will be public. This will be ugly. Are you sure you want to proceed? I looked at him across his desk, my hands resting on my pregnant belly. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Then we wait for your signal. That signal came in the form of a kiss at an anniversary dinner. When Zara pressed her lips against my husband's mouth in front of our family and friends, she gave me exactly what I needed. A public, undeniable display of their affair that would justify everything I was about to do. While I stood in that bathroom making my 3 phone calls, setting my revenge in motion, I thought about something my grandmother used to say, "Baby girl, some people mistake kindness for weakness. Show them their mistake." Zara and Chitty had mistaken my trust for blindness, my love for stupidity, my pregnancy for vulnerability. They thought kissing at my anniversary dinner would break me. They had no idea they were already broken. They just didn't know it yet. The morning after the anniversary dinner, I woke up in the guest bedroom of Tanisha's house. She had insisted I stay with her instead of going home to face Chitty. I was grateful. I needed space to think, to prepare for what was coming. Tanisha knocked softly on the door at 7 in the morning, carrying a cup of herbal tea and her tablet. "You're going to want to see this," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. She pulled up the news on her tablet. The headline read, "Sterling Heights Real Estate Under Federal Investigation for Fraud." Below it was a photo of our office building, looking stark and uninviting in the harsh morning light. "Jerome moved fast," Tanisha said. "The IRS announcement went public an hour ago. And look at this." She scrolled down to show social media posts. Sterling Heights was trending. People were sharing stories about our company, about Chitty and Zara, about the anniversary dinner disaster that someone had apparently witnessed and posted about. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. Messages and calls flooded in. Chitty's number appeared over and over. Zara tried calling. Chitty's parents. My parents. Friends. Business associates. Everyone wanted to know what was happening. I ignored all of them except my mother. "Baby, are you okay?" she asked the moment I answered. "I'm fine, Mama. I'm at Tanisha's house. The twins are fine. Everything is going according to plan." "According to plan? What plan? What is happening?" I explained everything. The affair, the embezzlement, the evidence I had collected, the revenge I had set in motion. My mother was silent for a long moment. "That man cheated on you while you were pregnant with his babies?" Her voice was ice. "Yes." "Then you do whatever you need to do. Your father and I are behind you 100%. That was the validation I needed. I spent the rest of the morning at Tanisha's dining table, coordinating with Jerome and Harold. The divorce papers had been filed. Chitty would be served at the office this morning. The civil lawsuit against both him and Zara would follow within hours. "The IRS is moving faster than I expected," Jerome told me over the phone. "They're sending agents to your office today. They'll want to interview you." "I'm ready." "Good. Remember, you're the victim here. You discovered the fraud and reported it. You cooperated fully. That's your story and it's the truth." At 10 in the morning my phone rang. It was Chitty. I debated not answering, but curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to hear his panic. "Amara, where are you?" His voice was frantic, desperate. "Please, we need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about. The IRS is at the office. They're seizing documents, freezing accounts. They're saying we committed fraud. This is insane. You have to help me figure out what's happening." I almost laughed. "I know exactly what's happening. You and Zara stole from our company. You hid income. You committed tax fraud. Now you're facing the consequences." "What?" "No, I didn't. Amara, this is a misunderstanding. It's not. I have emails, bank statements, property records, everything. I've known for 3 months, Chitty. I've been building a case while you and your mistress planned to push me out of my own company. Silence. Then quietly, you knew? I knew everything. The affair, the embezzlement, your plans for after the babies were born. I knew it all and I documented it all. Amara, please. His voice broke. I can explain. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Were you planning to leave me for her? Or just steal my business and keep me around as the wife who handles the children? I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But we can fix this. We can work it out. No, we can't. You're being served with divorce papers today. I'm taking the company, the properties, everything I built. You and Zara can explain your mistakes to the IRS and the judge. You can't do this to me. That made me angry. I'm not doing anything to you. You did this to yourself. You chose to cheat. You chose to steal. You chose to risk everything we built for her. These are just the consequences. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but I felt powerful. For 3 months, I had been silent, gathering evidence while my heart broke. Now, finally, I was speaking my truth and watching his world collapse. Tanisha came into the room with a maroon throw blanket. How do you feel? Strong, I said. Angry, hurt, but strong. Good. Because it's going to get worse before it gets better. Are you ready for that? I've been ready for months. By noon, the unraveling accelerated. Sterling Heights' biggest investor, a venture capital firm that had put $50 million into our expansion plans, announced they were pulling out. Jerome had contacted them the night before, sharing evidence of the fraud and warning them to protect their investment. They moved quickly to distance themselves from the scandal. That withdrawal triggered a clause in our other investment agreements. 2 more investors pulled out within hours. Sterling Heights, which had been valued at over $100 million yesterday, was suddenly bleeding money and credibility. Zara called me 17 times. I blocked her number. She tried emailing. I filtered her messages to spam. She even tried to reach me through social media. I blocked her everywhere. She wanted to explain, to apologize, to somehow make me understand. I wanted nothing from her except to watch her suffer the consequences of her choices. Chitty's mother called me, crying. Amara, please. Whatever my son did, please don't destroy him. Think of his children. I am thinking of his children, I said gently. I had always liked Chitty's mother. She was kind, warm, and welcoming. This situation wasn't her fault. I'm thinking that they deserve a mother who is respected, not betrayed. They deserve to grow up seeing that actions have consequences. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this, but your son made his choices. He loves you. He loved my money and my skills. He didn't love me. If he did, he wouldn't have done this. She hung up, still crying. I felt bad about hurting her, but not bad enough to stop. By evening, the news had spread throughout Atlanta's real estate community. My phone buzzed with messages from colleagues, clients, and competitors. Some expressed sympathy. Others asked probing questions looking for gossip. A few offered support and asked if I needed anything. One message stood out. It was from Samuel Robertson, a prominent developer who had mentored me early in my career. Amara, I heard about the situation. I always knew you were the brains behind Sterling Heights. If you need anything, references, connections, investment for a new venture, call me. The industry needs more people with integrity. That message meant more to me than he probably knew. My reputation was intact. People understood who the real talent was at Sterling Heights, and it wasn't Chitty or Zara. The twins kicked hard, reminding me of their presence. I placed my hand on my belly and whispered, "We're going to be okay. Better than okay. We're going to win." Tanisha ordered dinner from my favorite Ethiopian restaurant. We sat at her kitchen table eating doro wat and injera, and she raised her glass of wine. I lifted my water. "To the strategic queen," she said. "I don't want that nickname," I protested. "Too bad. It's already trending on social media. Someone from the restaurant posted about last night. They're calling you the strategic queen who took down a real estate empire with receipts and revenge. Own it." I smiled despite myself. "Fine. To the strategic queen." That night, I lay in bed at Tanisha's house, exhausted but unable to sleep. The babies moved constantly as if they could sense my turbulent emotions. I pulled out my phone and looked at photos from happier times. Chitty and me at our wedding. Our first property sale. Anniversary dinners from previous years. Award ceremonies. Family gatherings. Each photo was a lie. Or maybe not a lie but a partial truth. Those moments had been real to me. I had loved him genuinely. I had trusted him completely. But for him, apparently, I had just been useful. I had been the financial genius who made his dreams possible, the respectable wife who made him look good, the soon-to-be mother of his children who would be too busy to notice his betrayal. He had underestimated me so completely. I deleted every photo. Every single one. Then I opened my social media accounts and changed my relationship status to single. I updated my profile picture to a solo shot of me in a bright blue dress, smiling confidently at the camera. Within minutes, comments flooded in. Support, encouragement, a few nosy questions. I ignored them all and went to sleep. Tomorrow the real work would begin. Court dates to schedule, depositions to give, a business to rebuild. But tonight I had accomplished what I set out to do. I had started the unraveling and there was no stopping it now. Chitty and Zara's empire, built on lies and theft, was crumbling, and I was going to make sure it fell all the way to the ground. The next morning, Jerome's office looked like a war room. Documents covered every surface, and a whiteboard on the wall tracked all the legal actions we had in motion. Divorce proceedings, civil fraud lawsuit, IRS investigation, and now, thanks to Harold's digging, potential criminal charges. I sat in a leather chair, 8 months pregnant and surprisingly comfortable despite everything. Tanisha sat next to me taking notes. Jerome stood at the whiteboard, marker in hand. "Here's where we are," he began. "Divorce papers served. Chitty's lawyer called this morning wanting to negotiate. I told him no negotiations until we have full financial disclosure, which we both know is going to be problematic for them." "What did he say?" I asked. "That Chitty wants to make this easy, wants to work together to protect the business and minimize damage to the children." Tanisha snorted. "He should have thought about that before he kissed his mistress at his pregnant wife's anniversary dinner." Jerome smiled grimly. "Exactly what I told him. Here's the strategy. We push hard on everything. The civil lawsuit, the criminal referrals, the business dissolution. We let them panic. Then, if they want to negotiate, they come to us from a position of weakness." "What about Sterling Heights?" I asked. "What happens to the company?" "That's complicated. You own 50%. Chitty owns 50%. But you can argue that his fraud and breach of fiduciary duty invalidate his ownership. We can push for full control." "I want full control. I built that company. My analysis, my strategy, my relationships with investors. He was just the face." "We'll make that case. But be prepared. This is going to get ugly. Chitty's lawyer will try to paint you as vindictive, as trying to destroy him out of jealousy. Let them try. I have evidence. They have excuses." The next meeting was with Harold, the forensic accountant. He had spent the last 3 days analyzing every transaction at Sterling Heights, and what he found was even worse than we thought. "The embezzlement totals $2.3 million, Harold said, pulling up spreadsheets on his laptop. "But that's just the direct theft. There's also opportunity cost, lost business from deals that were directed to Zara's properties instead of Sterling Heights, misuse of company resources. Total damages are closer to $4 million. I felt sick. $4 million. Money that should have been invested in growing our business, in securing our future, in preparing for my children. Instead, it had funded Chitty and Zara's affair and lined their pockets. "Can we recover it?" Tanisha asked. "Some of it. The properties in Zara's name can be seized and sold. The cash is trickier. Some of it's been spent, some transferred to accounts in the Cayman Islands, which will be difficult to recover. But we can try?" "Absolutely. And the criminal charges will help. If they're convicted, the judge can order restitution as part of the sentence." I left that meeting feeling determined. $4 million was worth fighting for, but more than that, justice was worth fighting for. My phone buzzed constantly. Business associates choosing sides. Clients wanting to know if their projects were safe. Employees worried about their jobs. I spent hours that afternoon on calls, reassuring people, making plans, drawing lines in the sand. One call stood out. It was from Nathan Hughes, Sterling Heights Chief Financial Officer. He was a quiet man in his 50s who had been with us for 3 years. "Amara, I need to tell you something," Nathan said, his voice shaking slightly. "I should have told you months ago, but I was afraid." "What is it?" "Chitty asked me to help hide some transactions about 6 months ago. He said it was legal, just complex tax strategy. I didn't feel right about it, but he was my boss. I processed some of the transfers to Zara's accounts." My heart sank. "Nathan, why didn't you tell me?" "I should have. I know that now. But I was scared of losing my job, and Chitty assured me everything was legitimate." Then, when the IRS showed up yesterday, I realized how bad this was. I want to cooperate. I want to tell the truth. Thank you for calling me, I said carefully. You need to get a lawyer, Nathan. A good one. And you need to cooperate fully with the investigation. If you were coerced or misled, that matters. But you need legal representation. Will I go to jail? I don't know. But telling the truth now is your best chance. After I hung up, I immediately called Jerome and Harold. Nathan's testimony would be crucial. If Chitty had manipulated employees into participating in the fraud, that showed intent and sophistication. It made the criminal case stronger. This is good for us, Jerome said. Not good for Nathan, but good for our case. That evening I finally went home. I needed clothes, personal items, and I wanted to see the nursery I had spent months preparing. Tanisha insisted on coming with me. You shouldn't be alone there, she said. The house was dark when we arrived. Chitty's car wasn't in the driveway, which was a relief. I didn't want to see him, didn't want to hear his excuses or pleas. I just wanted my things. The nursery door was closed. I opened it slowly and turned on the light. 2 cribs stood against the wall, separated by a changing table. The walls were painted a soft yellow, decorated with clouds and stars. A rocking chair sat in the corner, a maroon cushion on the seat. Stuffed animals lined the shelves. Everything was perfect, ready for the twins who would be here in less than a month. I sat in the rocking chair and cried. Not for Chitty or our failed marriage. Not even for the betrayal or the stolen money. I cried for the dream that had died. The dream of raising these babies with their father, of building a family as successfully as we had built a business, of growing old together and looking back on everything we had accomplished. That dream was gone. But I could build a new one. A better one. One built on truth instead of lies, on respect instead of betrayal, on my own strength instead of depending on someone who didn't deserve my trust. Tanisha stood in the doorway, giving me space but staying close. After a few minutes, I wiped my tears and stood up. Let's pack everything. The cribs, the clothes, all of it. I'm not raising my babies in this house. We spent 2 hours loading Tanisha's SUV with nursery furniture, baby clothes, and my personal belongings. As we worked, I felt lighter. Each item I removed from this house was another piece of my new life taking shape. Just as we were finishing, Chitty's car pulled into the driveway. My stomach clenched. I wasn't ready for this confrontation. He got out of the car slowly, looking exhausted. He wore the same suit from yesterday, now wrinkled and stained. His eyes were red, his face unshaven. He looked like a man whose world had collapsed. Good. Amara, he said, his voice hoarse. Please. Can we talk? No. I need to explain. I don't want your explanations. The babies, he said desperately. Think about our children. They need their father. That made me stop. I turned to face him fully, my hand on my pregnant belly. My children will have their father in whatever capacity the court decides. But you lost the right to appeal to me about them when you decided to betray me while I carried them. It was a mistake. All of it. Zara, the money, everything. I was stupid and selfish and I'm so sorry. Are you sorry you did it or sorry you got caught? He didn't answer that. That's what I thought, I said. You had 18 months to stop. 18 months to tell the truth. You chose to keep lying, keep stealing, keep planning to destroy me. You don't get to apologize now and expect forgiveness. What do you want from me? He asked, and he sounded genuinely lost. I want you to face the consequences of your choices. I want you to tell the truth. I want you to pay back every dollar you stole. And I want you to stay away from me. I can't stay away. We have a business together. We're having children together. The business is mine now. The lawyers will sort that out. As for the children, we'll have a custody arrangement through the court. But you and me? We're done. Tanisha appeared at my elbow. We need to go, Amara. You've been on your feet too long. She was right. My back ached and the babies were kicking hard. I needed to rest. I turned toward her SUV without looking back at Chitty. Amara, he called after me. I love you. I know you don't believe that, but I do. I stopped but didn't turn around. If that's what you think love looks like, then I'm glad we're getting divorced. Because I deserve better than that. We drove away, leaving him standing in the driveway of our house. I watched him shrink in the side mirror until he disappeared. You okay? Tanisha asked. I will be. That night, I assembled the cribs in Tanisha's guest room with her help. Every screw I tightened, every piece I connected felt like building something new and good. These cribs would hold my babies. This room would be their first home. And it would be filled with love, truth, and strength. The phone calls continued all week. Friends choosing sides. Family expressing shock and support. Business associates offering partnerships for whatever came next. My tribe was forming, the people who would stand with me through this battle and beyond. But the most important call came from my doctor. Everything looks good, Amara. The twins are healthy, you're healthy. But given the stress you're under, let's schedule weekly appointments for the rest of the pregnancy. I want to make sure everything stays on track. Thank you, I said, relief flooding through me. The babies are the most important thing. You're all important, my doctor said gently. Take care of yourself too. Eat well, rest, let your friends help you. You're fighting for 3 people now. She was right. I was fighting for 3 people. My children and myself. And I was going to win. Because I wasn't just the strategic queen. I was a mother preparing to bring 2 lives into this world. And I would move heaven and earth to give them the life they deserved. 3 weeks after the anniversary dinner, Sterling Heights real estate officially collapsed. The news broke on a Monday morning, splashed across business sections and social media alike. Once prominent Atlanta real estate firm files for bankruptcy amid fraud scandal. I read the headline from Tanisha's couch, my feet propped up on pillows, a cup of herbal tea growing cold in my hands. The twins were due any day now, and I was enormous, uncomfortable, and oddly at peace. Everything I had set in motion was happening exactly as planned. Jerome called at 8 in the morning. Have you seen the news? I'm reading it now. Chitty filed for bankruptcy protection for Sterling Heights. He's trying to shield assets from the lawsuits and the IRS. It won't work. We've already frozen most of the valuable properties through preliminary court orders. But he's desperate. What about Zara? She filed personal bankruptcy too. The civil suit hit her hard. We seized 4 properties in her name, drained her accounts to pay back some of what was stolen. She's essentially broke. I felt no satisfaction, no joy. Just a grim sense of justice being served. And the criminal investigation? The U.S. Attorney's Office is preparing charges. Tax evasion, wire fraud, embezzlement. They're building an airtight case. Nathan Hughes' testimony helped, plus all the documentation Harold provided. Expect indictments within a month. After we hung up, I sat quietly, processing everything. The company I had built was gone. The business I had poured my heart and skills into no longer existed. But I felt relief, not grief. Sterling Heights had become rotten from the inside. Better to let it die than try to save something so corrupted. My phone buzzed with a text from Samuel Robertson, the developer who had offered his support earlier. Saw the news. Coffee this week? I have a proposition. We met 2 days later at a cafe in Midtown. I wore a green maternity dress and moved slowly, aware that I could go into labor at any moment. Samuel stood when I entered, helping me into a chair with genuine concern. You look like you're about to have those babies any second, he said with a kind smile. Any day now. Twins, so they could decide to arrive whenever they want. Then I'll talk fast. I've been thinking about your situation. You're one of the best real estate analysts in Atlanta, maybe in the Southeast. What Chitty and Zara did to you is unconscionable. But you're also about to be a single mother of twins, recovering from a major betrayal, starting over financially. That's an accurate summary, I said dryly. So here's my thought. I'm starting a new division of my company focused on sustainable urban development. I need someone brilliant to run the financial side, someone with integrity who can build relationships with ethical investors. I'd like that person to be you. I stared at him, surprised. You want to hire me? Not hire. Partner. 40% equity in the division, full control of financial decisions, flexible schedule to accommodate your children. I provide the capital and connections. You provide the genius. We build something that matters. Samuel, that's incredibly generous. It's good business. I've watched your career, Amara. I know what you're capable of. And I believe in second chances, in helping good people rebuild. What do you say? I thought about it for exactly 10 seconds. I say yes. But I need a few months after the babies are born. And I want everything in writing. I'm done with handshake agreements. He laughed. Smart. Take all the time you need. We'll have our lawyers draft something ironclad. Welcome to Robertson Development. We shook hands and I felt the future shift. I wasn't starting over from nothing. I was starting over with opportunity, with a partner who respected my skills, with a chance to build something better than what I had lost. That afternoon, the contractions started. Tanisha drove me to the hospital at 4 in the evening, gripping my hand every time a contraction hit. My parents met us there, my mother fussing over me while my father paced nervously. I called my doctor, who confirmed I was in active labor. Where's Chitty? My mother asked. I don't want him here. Amara, he's their father. And he can meet them after they're born. I don't want him in the delivery room. I don't want to see his face while I'm bringing my children into the world. This is my moment, not his. My mother looked like she wanted to argue but nodded. Whatever you need, baby. Labor was long and difficult. 18 hours of contractions, pain, exhaustion, fear. But Tanisha never left my side. My mother held my hand and whispered encouragement. The medical team was professional and kind. At 3 in the morning, my daughter was born. 6 pounds, 3 ounces, with a head full of black hair and lungs that worked perfectly. I held her against my chest and sobbed with relief and love. One more, Amara, the doctor said. You're doing great. 20 minutes later, my son arrived. 5 pounds, 11 ounces, smaller than his sister but healthy and strong. When they placed both babies on my chest, one on each side, I felt complete in a way I had never experienced before. They're perfect, I whispered. Absolutely perfect. My mother took photos, crying happy tears. My father looked proud and terrified. Tanisha grinned and said, "Look at the strategic queen now. Not so strategic when you're covered in babies and crying." I laughed through my tears. Shut up. The nurse helped me get the twins settled and nursing. They latched immediately, tiny mouths working instinctively. I named them on the spot. My daughter was Zuri, which means beautiful in Swahili. My son was Amari, which means strength. Beautiful and strong. That's what they were. That's what we would all be. Chitty showed up at the hospital 6 hours later. The nurse came to my room to tell me he was in the waiting area, asking to see me and the babies. Tell him he can see them through the nursery window, I said. But he's not coming in this room. The nurse nodded, understanding more than she probably should have from the media coverage of our situation. I watched on the nursery camera as Chitty stood at the window, looking at his children for the first time. Even through the grainy video feed I could see him crying. Part of me, a very small part, felt sad for him. He was missing the joy of holding them, the wonder of their first hours, the bond that forms between parent and child in those precious early moments. But he had chosen that. He had chosen Zara over his family. He had chosen money over integrity. He had chosen to risk everything for selfish desires. These were just more consequences of those choices. My phone buzzed with a text from Jerome. Saw the birth announcement. Congratulations. Also, update, Chitty's lawyer contacted me about custody arrangements. He wants joint custody. I typed back with one hand while Zuri nursed on the other side. Supervised visitation only until criminal case resolves. I won't have my children around someone under federal investigation. Agreed. I'll push back hard. The next few days in the hospital were a blur of feeding, diaper changes, learning to care for 2 infants at once, and visitors. My parents came every day. Tanisha brought meals from my favorite restaurants. Friends sent flowers and gifts until my room looked like a garden. Chitty sent a massive bouquet of roses with a card that read, "To the strongest woman I know. I'm sorry for everything. I love you and our children. Can we please talk?" I gave the roses to a nurse and threw the card away without reading it aloud to anyone. On the day I was discharged, Jerome called with news. The indictments came through. Federal charges against both Chitty and Zara. Tax evasion, wire fraud, embezzlement. They'll be arraigned next week. Prison time? If convicted, 5 to 7 years each, possibly more depending on what the judge decides. I sat in the hospital wheelchair, Zuri in my arms and Amari in Tanisha's, and processed that information. 5 to 7 years. My children would be in elementary school before their father got out of prison. They would grow up barely knowing him, visiting him behind glass, learning that he was in jail because he broke the law. That should have made me sad. Instead, I felt relief. They would grow up knowing the truth, seeing that actions have consequences, understanding that integrity matters more than money or status. That was a better lesson than growing up in a household built on lies. Tanisha drove us to her house carefully, the twins secure in their new car seats. As we pulled into her driveway, I looked at my children, sleeping peacefully despite the chaos of the world around them. "Welcome home, Zuri and Amari," I whispered. "I promise you your life is going to be filled with love, truth, and strength. We're going to build something beautiful together." And I meant every word. The arraignment happened when the twins were 3 weeks old. I didn't attend, but Jerome called me immediately afterward with the details. Both pled not guilty, he said. Bail was set at $500,000 each. Chitty's family posted his bail. Zara still in custody. Her family refused to help. When's the trial? 6 months, maybe longer. Federal cases move slowly. But the prosecution is confident. They have everything they need to convict. That evening as I fed Zuri her bottle, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Amara? The voice was Zara's, shaky and desperate. Please don't hang up. I should have ended the call immediately. But curiosity kept me on the line. What do you want? I need to talk to you. I need to explain. There's nothing to explain. You slept with my husband, helped him steal from our company, and destroyed my marriage. What's left to say? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. She was crying. I never meant to hurt you. You kissed him at my anniversary dinner while I was pregnant. You absolutely meant to hurt me. That was a mistake. I was drunk and angry and stupid. Chidi and I had fought that day. He said he was going to end things between us, that he wanted to focus on you and the babies. I got jealous and did something horrible. I processed that information, rocking Zuri gently as she drank. So you're telling me the affair was ending, and you sabotaged it by kissing him publicly? Yes. And now everything's destroyed. My career, my reputation, my freedom. I'm facing prison time, Amara. Federal prison. Good. Please. I know you hate me and you have every right to. But I'm begging you. Tell the prosecutors I was coerced. Tell them Chidi manipulated me. I'll testify against him. I'll give them everything. You want me to lie for you? I want you to help me. Woman to woman. You're a mother now. You understand protecting yourself. That made me angry. Don't you dare bring my children into this. And don't insult me by asking for help after what you did. You made your choices. Face the consequences. You destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life. I just made sure everyone knew the truth. I hung up and blocked the number. My hands were shaking. Tanisha appeared in the doorway, having heard my raised voice. Zara? She asked. Yes. She wanted me to help her avoid prison. The audacity of that woman. She doesn't get it. She still thinks she's a victim, that I'm the villain in this story. She can't accept that she did this to herself. 2 days later, Chidi showed up at Tanisha's house. He somehow found the address, drove over without warning, and rang the doorbell at 9 in the morning. Tanisha answered, blocking the door with her body. You're not welcome here, she told him. I need to see Amara. Please. I need to talk to her about the twins. Anything about the twins goes through lawyers. You know that. I'm their father. I have rights. You're also under federal indictment for fraud. Your rights are currently being determined by the court. I heard the commotion from upstairs where I was changing Amari's diaper. I finished quickly and came down with him in my arms. Chidi stood on the porch looking haggard. He had lost weight, his suit hung loosely, and his eyes had dark circles beneath them. When he saw me with Amari, his face crumpled. Please. Let me hold him. Let me hold my son. No. Amara, I'm begging you. I've lost everything. My business, my reputation, my freedom soon. Don't take my children from me too. I didn't take anything. You threw it all away. I made mistakes. You committed crimes. There's a difference. I'm still their father. Then act like it. Get yourself together. Face your charges honestly. Pay back what you stole. Show some integrity for once in your life. Then maybe years from now you can have a relationship with them. But right now you're not someone I want around my children. Our children. My children. I carried them. I gave birth to them. I'm raising them. You lost the right to claim them when you decided to betray their mother. He looked devastated, but I felt nothing. No pity, no regret, no second thoughts. I was protecting my babies from a man who had proven he couldn't be trusted. The supervised visitation starts next week, I said, softer now. You'll get 2 hours every Saturday at a facility with a social worker present. Show up sober, on time, and respectful. That's what you can do for your children right now. That's not enough. It's more than you deserve. I turned and went back inside, leaving him on the porch. Tanisha closed the door firmly and locked it. That night, Jerome called with an update that changed everything. Chidi's lawyer contacted me with a plea deal offer. He wants to plead guilty to reduced charges in exchange for testimony against Zara. He says she was the mastermind, that she manipulated him into the affair and the fraud. That's a lie. I know. But it's his strategy. Throw Zara under the bus to save himself. Will it work? Maybe partially. The prosecutors might reduce his sentence if he cooperates. But they won't drop the charges entirely. He still committed the crimes. And Zara? If he testifies against her, she's looking at maximum sentences. 10 years, maybe more. I sat with that information for a long time. Chidi and Zara, who had been partners in crime and lovers, were now turning on each other. The affair that had destroyed my marriage was imploding under the weight of its own corruption. Let them fight, I said finally. Let them blame each other. Let them show the world exactly who they are. I don't care who goes to prison longer. I just want justice. Justice is coming, Jerome promised. One way or another, they're both going down. The next morning, a story broke on social media. Someone, probably Zara's lawyer, leaked text messages between her and Chitty. Conversations where they discussed the affair, the money, their plans for the future. The messages painted both of them as calculating and cold, discussing me like I was an obstacle to remove rather than a person to respect. She's so focused on the pregnancy she doesn't notice anything, one message read. Perfect. Keep her distracted, another said. After the babies come, we push her out. She'll be too overwhelmed to fight. The public reaction was swift and brutal. Social media lit up with anger at both of them. The strategic queen hashtag trended again, with thousands of people praising me for exposing them. Articles appeared analyzing the scandal, the fraud, the betrayal. I became a symbol. The wronged wife who fought back. The pregnant woman who didn't collapse under betrayal but instead methodically destroyed those who tried to destroy her. The mother who protected her children by refusing to accept disrespect. I didn't ask for that role. I didn't want to be a public figure. But I couldn't deny it felt good to have so many people understand my side of the story, to have support from strangers who saw the injustice I had faced. Samuel Robertson called to check on me. How are you holding up with all the media attention? I'm managing. Focusing on the twins, trying to ignore the noise. Good. Remember, you're not just the strategic queen. You're a mother, a talented analyst, a survivor. Don't let this scandal define you forever. I won't. I'm already planning the next chapter. And I was. In quiet moments between feedings and diaper changes, I sketched out ideas for my partnership with Samuel. Sustainable housing developments in underserved communities. Ethical investment strategies that prioritize people over profit. A consulting firm that would help other entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes I had made. I would build something better than Sterling Heights. Something honest, something meaningful, something I could be proud to tell my children about when they were old enough to understand. Chitty and Zara could keep destroying each other. I was moving forward. The trial began when the twins were 4 months old. I had lost most of the pregnancy weight and felt stronger than I had in months. My parents had moved to Atlanta temporarily to help with the babies, giving me the flexibility to attend court proceedings. I wore a maroon suit on the first day, carrying a leather folder full of notes Jerome had prepared for me. The courthouse was packed with media, curious onlookers, and former Sterling Heights employees who wanted to see justice served. Chitty sat at the defense table in a gray suit, looking small and defeated. Zara sat separately with her lawyer, wearing a simple blue dress, her expression blank. They didn't look at each other. The partnership that had destroyed my marriage was clearly dead. The prosecution's case was devastating. They presented emails, bank statements, property records, all the evidence Harold and I had compiled. They called Nathan Hughes to testify about being pressured to process fraudulent transactions. They called several investors who explained how they had been misled about Sterling Heights' financial health. Then they called me. I walked to the witness stand with my head high. I placed my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Then I sat down and looked directly at the jury. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Patricia Davis, approached with a kind smile. Mrs. Johnson, can you tell the jury about your role at Sterling Heights Real Estate? I was the co-founder and chief financial officer. I handled all financial analysis, risk assessment, investor relations, and strategic planning. And Mr. Johnson's role? He was CEO. He focused on acquisitions, development, and public relations. Who had more financial expertise? I did. I have a master's degree in finance. Chitty has a business degree but no specialized financial training. So when it came to complex financial transactions, who would have understood them better? Me, without question. Patricia walked me through the discovery of the affair, the investigation I had conducted, the evidence I had gathered. I spoke clearly and calmly, never emotional, always factual. The jury listened intently. Why didn't you confront your husband immediately when you discovered the affair? Patricia asked. Because I suspected there was more to it than just infidelity. I was right. When I investigated further, I discovered the embezzlement and fraud. What made you suspect financial crimes? The property transfers to Zara's name made no business sense. I had access to all of Sterling Heights records, and I had never approved those transactions. When I dug deeper, I found a pattern of hidden deals, unauthorized transfers, and income that wasn't being reported properly. And what did you do with that information? I documented everything and reported it to the appropriate authorities. The IRS, the FBI, and ultimately this court. Chitty's lawyer cross-examined me, trying to paint me as vindictive, as a scorned wife seeking revenge. But I remained calm, answering every question honestly. Isn't it true, Mrs. Johnson, that you were angry about the affair? Of course I was angry. My husband betrayed me while I was pregnant with his children. Any reasonable person would be angry. And isn't it true that you wanted to punish him? I wanted him to face the consequences of his criminal actions. There's a difference between punishment and justice. You systematically destroyed Sterling Heights, didn't you? No. Chitty and Zara destroyed Sterling Heights when they committed fraud. I simply made sure everyone knew the truth. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Witness after witness confirmed the fraud, the theft, the betrayal. Chitty's defense tried to blame Zara. Zara's defense tried to blame Chitty. The jury saw through both strategies. On the day of closing arguments, I sat in the gallery with Tanisha beside me. The babies were with my parents, giving me this moment to see justice served. Patricia Davis gave a powerful closing argument. This case is about two people who betrayed trust in the most fundamental ways. They betrayed their business partner. They betrayed their investors. They betrayed the law. They took money that wasn't theirs, hid it, lied about it, and when they were caught, they tried to blame each other. The evidence is overwhelming. The guilt is clear. We ask that you hold them accountable. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, I held my breath. On the charge of wire fraud, how do you find the defendant Chitty Johnson? Guilty. On the charge of tax evasion? Guilty. On the charge of embezzlement? Guilty. 3 guilties for Chitty. 3 for Zara. On every charge, both convicted. I didn't cheer or celebrate. I simply closed my eyes and felt the weight I had been carrying for months finally lift. Justice had been served. Sentencing came 2 months later. The judge was a stern woman in her 60s who had clearly read all the materials thoroughly. Mr. Johnson, she said, looking directly at Chitty, you violated every trust placed in you. Your wife, your investors, your employees, the law. I sentence you to 7 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release and full restitution of all stolen funds. Chitty's mother sobbed in the gallery. His father sat stone-faced. I felt nothing. Ms. Zara Thompson, the judge continued, turning to Zara, your crimes are equally serious. 7 years in federal prison, supervised release and full restitution. Zara cried silently, her shoulders shaking. I still felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just a quiet sense that this chapter was finally closing. After the sentencing, I gave one interview. Just one, to a respected business journalist who had covered the case fairly. How do you feel now that it's over? She asked. Relieved. Ready to move forward. I spent months gathering evidence, participating in this trial, fighting for justice. Now I get to focus on what matters. My children, my new business partnership, building a life based on integrity. Do you forgive your ex-husband? I thought about that question carefully. Forgiveness is complicated. I don't wish him harm. I hope he uses his time in prison to become a better person. But I don't forget what he did and I don't excuse it. He made choices that hurt me and our children. Those choices have consequences. What message do you have for other women who might be facing betrayal? Document everything. Trust your instincts. Don't let anyone make you feel crazy for questioning what doesn't make sense. And remember, you're stronger than you think. I was 8 months pregnant when my world fell apart and I still fought back and won. You can too. The interview went viral. The strategic queen had spoken and people listened. As I left the courthouse that day, I looked up at the Atlanta sky, bright and clear. Somewhere in that city, Chitty and Zara were being processed into the federal prison system. Somewhere, their crimes were being added to databases, their faces to prisoner records. But I was walking free. I was walking toward my car, toward Tanisha waiting for me, toward my parents and my children at home. I was walking toward a future I would build myself, brick by brick, choice by choice. Justice had been served. And it felt like freedom. 6 months after the sentencing, I stood in the bright conference room of Robertson Development, wearing a green business suit that fit perfectly now that my body had fully recovered from pregnancy. Around the table sat 5 potential investors, all interested in the new sustainable housing division I was launching. Our approach is simple, I told them, clicking through the presentation I had prepared. We develop affordable housing in underserved communities using environmentally friendly materials and ethical labor practices. We provide not just homes but economic development, job training, and community investment. And we do it all transparently with full financial disclosure and regular audits. One investor, an older man named Thomas Reed, leaned forward. This sounds idealistic. Where's the profit? The profit comes from volume and efficiency. We build at scale, partner with local governments for tax incentives, and create long-term value rather than quick returns. Our projections show 18% annual returns, which is competitive with traditional development but with much lower risk. And how do we know this company will be run honestly, given your history? I smiled, having expected that question. My history is exactly why you should trust this company. I exposed fraud at Sterling Heights, cooperated fully with federal investigators, and ensured that justice was served. I could have hidden the problems, protected my marriage and business, and kept the money flowing. Instead, I chose integrity over convenience. That's the foundation of everything we're building here. Thomas nodded slowly. Fair point. By the end of the meeting, I had commitments for $30 million in investment. Samuel clapped me on the shoulder as the investors left. The strategic queen strikes again. Don't call me that, I said, but I was smiling. Why not? You've earned it. Because I want to be known for what I'm building now, not what I destroyed. I want Zuri and Amari to grow up hearing about their mother's success, not her revenge. They'll hear about both. You're a cautionary tale and an inspiration. That evening, I drove to my new house. I had purchased it 3 months earlier, a beautiful brick home in a quiet neighborhood with a yard where the twins could eventually play. The walls were painted in bright colors, each room carefully decorated. The nursery had 2 cribs just like before, but these cribs represented a fresh start. My mother was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. My father sat in the living room, holding Zuri while Amari played on a mat nearby. This was my life now. Family, support, love. How did the meeting go? My mother asked. Great. We're fully funded for the first 3 projects. I'm so proud of you, baby. After everything you've been through, look at you now. I picked up Amari, kissing his chubby cheek. He giggled and grabbed my nose. I'm proud of me too. That weekend was the first supervised visitation with Chitty. He had been in prison for 8 months now and had earned the right to see the twins through good behavior. The facility was clean but institutional, with guards and cameras everywhere. I brought the twins in their car seats, dressed in matching blue outfits. Chitty was already there, wearing his prison uniform, looking thinner and older than I remembered. When he saw the babies, his eyes filled with tears. They've gotten so big, he whispered. They're 8 months old now. They're hitting all their milestones, healthy and happy. The social worker supervised as Chitty held each twin one at a time. He talked to them softly, crying quietly. Zuri stared at him with curiosity. Amari cried and reached for me. Neither baby knew him. He was a stranger. How are you doing? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. It's hard. Prison is worse than I imagined. But I'm taking classes, working in the library, trying to use this time to become better. Good. Amara, I'm so sorry. For everything. I've had months to think about what I did, who I hurt. I destroyed the best thing in my life. I destroyed our family. You did. Is there any chance years from now, after I get out, that we could try again? I looked at him carefully. He looked sincere, remorseful, changed. But I had learned my lesson about trusting words without seeing actions. No, I said gently but firmly. We'll co-parent these children as well as we can under the circumstances. You'll have a relationship with them if you stay on the right path. But you and I are done. That door is closed forever. He nodded, tears running down his face. I understand. I don't deserve another chance. It's not about deserving. It's about me knowing who I am and what I need. And I need a partner who respects me, who values integrity, who wouldn't risk our family for an affair and quick money. You're not that person. I could be. Maybe. But you'll have to prove that to yourself and your children, not to me. The visit ended after an hour. I buckled the twins back into their car seats and drove home, feeling oddly peaceful. I had faced Chitty without anger, without pain, without regret. He was the father of my children, nothing more. As the months passed, my business thrived. The first sustainable housing project broke ground in a neighborhood that desperately needed development. We hired local workers, trained community members in construction skills, and created partnerships with schools and nonprofits. It was everything Sterling Heights should have been but wasn't. I was featured in magazines again, but this time for the right reasons. Meet the strategic queen, from scandal to success. How one woman turned betrayal into a business empire. Amara Johnson, building communities and justice. I gave talks at universities, sharing my story and encouraging young entrepreneurs, especially women, to trust their instincts and demand integrity. I was honest about the pain, the difficulty, the cost of standing up for what was right. But I was also honest about the rewards. The twins grew, hitting every milestone. First words, first steps, first laughs. I documented everything, creating memories that would last their lifetime. My parents moved back home but visited often. Tanisha became their godmother officially, spoiling them with gifts and love. On their first birthday, I threw a party at my house. The yard was filled with balloons, a colorful bouncy castle, and tables covered with food. Friends, family, and colleagues celebrated with us. Samuel gave a toast. To Zuri and Amari, who have the strongest mother I know. May you grow up to be as brave and brilliant as she is. Everyone raised their glasses. The twins smashed into their birthday cakes, faces covered in frosting, giggling with pure joy. I took photos, capturing the moment, thinking about how different this day could have been. If I had stayed silent about the affair. If I had accepted the betrayal and tried to make the marriage work. If I had let fear or love or loyalty keep me from demanding justice. This party wouldn't exist. This happiness wouldn't be real. Instead, I had fought. I had stood up for myself and my children. I had demanded accountability. And now I was free, successful, surrounded by people who loved and respected me. That night, after everyone left and the twins were asleep, I sat in my backyard under the stars. The air was cool, the night quiet. I thought about Chitty in his prison cell. I thought about Zara and hers. I thought about Sterling Heights, now a memory and a cautionary tale. And I thought about myself. The woman I had been, trusting and naive. The woman I became, strategic and fierce. The woman I was now, balanced and strong. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through photos. The twins at the hospital. Their first smiles. First bath. First everything. This was my empire now. Not real estate or money or reputation. These two beautiful children and the life I was building for them. I had one. Not because Chitty and Zara went to prison. Not because I salvaged a business or became successful again. I had one because I refused to let their betrayal define me, because I chose integrity over convenience, because I showed my children that strength comes from standing up for what's right. The strategic queen had conquered. But more importantly, Amara had survived, rebuilt, and thrived. 2 years after the anniversary dinner that changed everything, I stood on a stage at a major business conference in Miami. The ballroom was packed with entrepreneurs, investors, and business leaders. The moderator introduced me with a summary of my story that still felt surreal to hear aloud. Please welcome Amara Johnson, founder and CEO of Equity Development, the fastest-growing sustainable housing company in the Southeast. She's been called the Strategic Queen, a nickname she earned after exposing fraud at her former company and rebuilding her career from the ground up. She's here today to talk about integrity in business and overcoming betrayal. The audience applauded as I walked to the microphone. I wore a royal blue dress and heels, my hair styled perfectly, my confidence genuine. The woman on that stage was very different from the pregnant wife who had sat at an anniversary dinner while her husband's mistress kissed him. Thank you for that introduction, I began. The Strategic Queen nickname is flattering, but honestly, I'd prefer to be known for what I'm building now rather than what I destroyed. Though I understand why the story resonates. Betrayal is universal. Most of us have experienced it in some form, whether in business, relationships, or both. I spoke for 45 minutes, sharing my story but focusing on the lessons. Trust your instincts. Document everything. Demand integrity from partners. Don't let fear of conflict keep you from addressing problems. And most importantly, know your worth. When I discovered my husband's affair and the fraud he was committing, I had a choice, I told the audience. I could have stayed quiet, protected the business and our reputation, tried to salvage the marriage. Many people thought I should. Even people who loved me suggested that confrontation would be too difficult, too costly, especially while pregnant. But I knew that accepting betrayal, accepting theft, accepting disrespect would cost me more in the long run. It would cost me my self-respect. And that's not negotiable. The audience gave me a standing ovation. After my talk, dozens of people approached with questions, offers, congratulations. One young woman, probably in her 20s, waited until the crowd thinned before approaching me. I'm in a similar situation, she said quietly. My business partner is stealing from our company. I have proof. But he's my boyfriend and I'm scared of what will happen if I report him. I looked at her carefully, seeing myself 2 years earlier. What's your name? Brittany. Brittany, I can't tell you what to do. But I can tell you this. The fear you feel right now about confronting him will be nothing compared to the regret you'll feel if you don't. You'll regret losing more money. You'll regret wasting more time. You'll regret not standing up for yourself when you had the chance. Document everything. Get a lawyer. Protect yourself. You're worth fighting for. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. I watched her walk away, hoping she would find the strength I had found. Not everyone would. Some people would stay in bad situations, accepting betrayal because change was too scary. But at least she had been warned. At least she knew that standing up was possible. That evening, I video called with my parents. They were watching the twins while I traveled for the conference. Zuri and Amari appeared on the screen, 2 years old now, energetic and talkative. Mama, Zuri shouted, pressing her face close to the camera. When you come home? Tomorrow, baby. I'll be home tomorrow. We miss you, Amari added, climbing onto my father's lap to get closer to the screen. I miss you too. Have you been good for Grandma and Grandpa? Very good, my mother confirmed, laughing. Although they refused to eat their vegetables tonight. We'll address that tomorrow. I love you both so much. Love you, Mama, they said in unison before running off to play. My parents stayed on the call. We're so proud of you, my father said. The talk, the business, everything you've accomplished. You're amazing. I learned from the best, I told them. You taught me to stand up for myself, to demand respect, to never accept less than I deserve. That's what I'm passing on to Zuri and Amari. After we hung up, I sat alone in my hotel room, looking out at the Miami skyline. I thought about where I had been 2 years ago. Pregnant, betrayed, planning revenge. I thought about where Chidi was now, 5 years left on his prison sentence, missing his children's lives. I thought about Zara serving her time, her career and reputation destroyed forever. I didn't feel victorious thinking about their situations. I felt sad for what could have been, for the family we could have built if Chidi had chosen differently. But I also felt grateful for how things turned out. Grateful that I discovered the truth before wasting more years. Grateful that I found the strength to fight back. Grateful for the life I had built from the ashes of betrayal. My phone buzzed with a text from Samuel. Great talk today. The investors loved you. We have 3 new projects funded thanks to your presentation. I smiled, texting back. That's what I like to hear. Integrity sells. Always has, always will. See you next week in Atlanta. The next morning I flew home. My parents brought the twins to the airport to meet me, and I scooped them both up despite their squirming protests. They were getting too big to carry together, but I tried anyway, holding them close and breathing in their baby smell that wasn't quite baby anymore. Mama, you're squishing us, Zuri complained. Good. That's what mamas do. At home, I caught up on work emails while the twins played in the living room. One email stood out. It was from a literary agent who had seen my conference talk online. Ms. Johnson, have you considered writing a book about your experience? I believe your story would resonate with thousands of women facing similar situations. I'd love to discuss representation. I stared at the email for a long time. A book. My story in my own words, helping other people navigate betrayal and find their strength. It was tempting. But it also meant revisiting painful memories, opening old wounds, making myself even more public than I already was. I called Tanisha for advice. Should I write a book? Do you want to? I don't know. Part of me wants to move on completely, leave the past behind. But another part thinks maybe sharing the full story could help people. Then do it. Not for money or fame or revenge. Do it because you have wisdom that other people need. Do it because you survived something terrible and came out stronger. That's worth sharing. So I did. Over the next year, between running my company and raising my children, I wrote my story. Every painful detail, every strategic decision, every moment of doubt and triumph. I wrote about the anniversary dinner, the evidence collection, the trial, the aftermath. I wrote about rebuilding, about finding strength, about justice and integrity. The book published 18 months later with the title, The Strategic Queen, How I Turned Betrayal into Justice and Built an Empire on Integrity. It became a bestseller within weeks, with thousands of women sharing how the story inspired them to stand up for themselves. I did a book tour, speaking at bookstores and conferences across the country. Everywhere I went, women approached me with their own stories. Some were facing betrayal. Some had already overcome it. All of them were looking for validation that their strength mattered, that demanding respect was the right choice. You saved my life, one woman told me after a reading in Chicago. I was about to give up on my business because my partner was making me feel incompetent. Your book reminded me that I'm the talented one. I kicked him out and now I'm thriving. Those conversations made everything worthwhile. The pain I had endured, the public scrutiny I had faced, the difficulty of reliving trauma to write the book. It all mattered because it helped other people find their own strength. 3 years after the anniversary dinner, I attended a visitation with Chitty. The twins were old enough now to remember him between visits, though they didn't call him Daddy. They called him Chitty like he was a family friend rather than their father. It hurt him, I could tell, but it was the natural consequence of his absence. "How are you?" I asked as we sat across from each other in the visitation room. "Better. I completed my GED and started college courses. I'm studying business ethics, ironically enough." I smiled despite myself. "That is ironic. I read your book." "Oh. I hadn't expected that. What did you think?" "It was painful. Seeing everything from your perspective, understanding how much I hurt you. But it was also fair. You didn't exaggerate or sensationalize. You just told the truth. That's all I've ever done. I know that now. I'm sorry, Amara. For everything. I know you don't want to hear it again, but I am. I believe you. And I hope you really have changed. Zuri and Amari deserve a father who has integrity, even if he can only be a father from a distance right now. That's my goal. To be someone they can be proud of eventually." Good. As I drove home that day, I thought about forgiveness. I hadn't forgiven Chitty, not completely. The wound was too deep, the betrayal too fundamental. But I had made peace with what happened. I had accepted that he was flawed, that people make terrible choices, that marriage doesn't always last. Most importantly, I had forgiven myself. For trusting him. For not seeing the signs earlier. For briefly questioning whether I was overreacting by pursuing justice so aggressively. I had forgiven myself for being human, for making mistakes, for not being perfect. 4 years after the anniversary dinner, I stood in the backyard of my home, watching Zuri and Amari play on their swing set. They were 4 years old now, starting pre-kindergarten, full of energy and questions and love. They knew their father was in prison. They knew, in age-appropriate terms, that he had made bad choices and was facing consequences. But they also knew they were loved, safe, and surrounded by people who valued integrity. My phone rang. It was Jerome with unexpected news. Chitty's lawyer filed for early release. He served 4 years, been a model prisoner, completed all his programs. The parole board is considering letting him out early with supervision. How early? He could be out in 6 months instead of serving the full 7 years. I processed that information. What do you think? Honestly, I think he's changed. I've reviewed his file. He's done everything right. And with supervised release, he'll still face consequences if he messes up. Okay. I won't oppose it. If he's genuinely changed, then he deserves a chance to rebuild his life and be a real father to his children. You're being very generous. No, I'm being fair. That's different. 6 months later, Chitty was released. He moved into a halfway house, got a job at a local nonprofit teaching financial literacy to low-income families, and began supervised visitation with the twins twice a week. I watched carefully, looking for signs of the old Chitty, the one who lied and cheated and stole. But he seemed genuinely changed. Humbled, remorseful, focused on being better. Meanwhile, my company continued to grow. Equity development expanded to 3 states, building affordable housing communities that transformed neighborhoods. I hired a diverse team, promoted from within, and created a culture of transparency and integrity. Every decision was documented, every dollar accounted for, every deal above board. I was offered partnerships, investment opportunities, speaking engagements. I was named one of Atlanta's most influential business leaders. I won awards for sustainable development and corporate ethics. The strategic queen had become a brand, a symbol, a legacy. But at home I was just Mama. The woman who made breakfast, braided hair, read bedtime stories, and kissed scraped knees. The woman who taught her children that being strong didn't mean never feeling pain, it meant standing up after pain knocked you down. One evening, as I tucked Zuri into bed, she asked a question I had been preparing for. "Mama, why doesn't Chitty live with us like other daddies?" I sat on the edge of her bed, stroking her hair. Because sometimes adults make choices that change their families. Chitty made some bad choices before you were born and he had to face consequences. But he loves you very much and he's working hard to be a good daddy now, even if he can't live with us. Did you make bad choices too? No, baby. I made hard choices. I chose to stand up for what was right even when it was difficult. That's different from bad choices. Is that what being strong means? That's exactly what it means. She thought about that, then nodded. Okay. Love you, Mama. Love you too, baby. As I walked out of her room, I felt at peace. My children would grow up understanding that integrity matters, that actions have consequences, that strength comes from standing up for what's right. They would learn that revenge wasn't about hurting others, it was about demanding justice and refusing to accept betrayal. They would learn all of this because they had a mother who lived it, who survived it, who thrived despite it. 5 years after the anniversary dinner, I stood at another major event. This time, it was the grand opening of Equity Development's largest project yet, a 200-unit affordable housing community with a community center, job training facility, and public park. The governor attended, praising the project as a model for sustainable development. Samuel stood beside me, now semi-retired but still involved as an advisor. "You did it," he said. "You built something that matters." "We did it," I corrected. "I couldn't have done this without your support." "Maybe. But you're the strategic queen. You would have found a way." I looked out at the community we had built, at the families moving into beautiful homes they could afford, at the children playing in the park. This was my legacy. Not the takedown of Sterling Heights or the conviction of my ex-husband. This, building something good from the ashes of something bad. That evening, I sat in my backyard with a glass of wine, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from friends, colleagues, and even strangers who had followed my journey. But I ignored them, content to sit in the quiet satisfaction of accomplishment. Zuri and Amari burst through the back door, chasing each other and laughing. They collapsed on the grass next to me, breathless and happy. "Mama, can we have ice cream?" Amari asked. "After dinner." "But we're hungry now," Zuri protested. I pulled them both close, one under each arm. "Nice try. You'll survive until dinner." They groaned dramatically but cuddled closer anyway. We sat there together watching the sunset, and I thought about how far we had come. From that terrible anniversary dinner to this moment of peace and joy. From betrayal to justice to rebuilding to thriving. Someone once asked me if I would change anything if I could go back. The affair, the fraud, the pain. Would I prevent it all if given the chance? I said no. Because that pain forged me into someone stronger. That betrayal taught me my worth. That fight showed me what I was capable of. And most importantly, that journey brought me to this moment. To these children. To this life. To this peace. I was the strategic queen, yes. But more than that, I was Amara. A woman who demanded respect, who chose integrity, who fought for justice, and who built an empire on the foundation of truth. And that was a legacy worth more than any revenge. Where they are now. Amara Johnson continues to run Equity Development, which has expanded to 7 states and built over 2,000 affordable housing units. She's a sought-after speaker and consultant, helping other entrepreneurs build ethical businesses. She's raised Zuri and Amari to be strong, thoughtful children who understand that integrity matters more than convenience. She never remarried but has found peace and fulfillment in her work, her children, and her community. The strategic queen nickname stuck, and she's learned to embrace it as a reminder of her strength. Chitty Johnson served 4 years in federal prison before being released on supervised parole. He works at a nonprofit teaching financial literacy and sees his children twice a week under a custody arrangement that gradually increased his access as he proved his reliability. He lives modestly, pays restitution from his earnings, and has become an advocate for criminal justice reform. He and Amara maintain a cordial co-parenting relationship, though they will never reconcile romantically. He accepts this as a consequence of his choices. Zara Thompson served her full 7-year sentence. Upon release, she moved to another state and took a low-level administrative job under an assumed name. She has no contact with Amara, Chitty, or anyone from her former life. She lost her professional licenses, her reputation, and any chance of returning to the real estate industry. She lives quietly, working to rebuild a life from nothing. Zuri and Amari Johnson are thriving, well-adjusted children who love their mother fiercely and are beginning to understand their father's complicated story. They're being raised with strong values, clear boundaries, and an understanding that actions have consequences. Their mother's strength and integrity shape their worldview daily. Sterling Heights Real Estate no longer exists. The company dissolved completely, its assets liquidated to pay creditors and restitution. It serves as a cautionary tale in business schools about the importance of ethics and the consequences of fraud. Equity Development continues to grow, a testament to what can be built on a foundation of integrity. Amara's company is known throughout the industry for transparency, ethical practices, and genuine commitment to community development. It's the empire she always wanted to build, finally realized. The story of the strategic queen continues to inspire women and men facing betrayal, fraud, and difficult choices. Amara's journey from pregnant wife to powerful CEO reminds us all that strength comes not from avoiding pain, but from refusing to let pain define us. She turned betrayal into justice, loss into opportunity, and revenge into redemption. And she did it all with receipts, lawyers, and cold, calculated strategy that left her enemies destroyed and her integrity intact.